now. Now. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Unfiltered Kings podcast, where we talk to each other, not at each other as men and women, man. We are here with another great episode. Man, we're still full from last week, man. And so we're going to wait a little bit, get y'all to kind of come in and join in with us, man. Again, thank you guys for tuning in, all your questions, your comments, even was keeping them going even after the podcast, man. Thank you guys for definitely pouring in. As always, man, we have a whole team. Miss Diana, we got my boy Carlos, we got Frankie, man. They bring their insight from their perspective individually and collectively. And so definitely we look forward to have another great conversation. Look, don't hesitate to jump into this conversation, man. I think we're going to have a good one tonight. Tonight's topic, the silent treatment. The silent treatment, tackling conflict resolution across genders. You know, and so I think we all know that silent treatment is probably one of the bigger ones, but we're going to explore some other ones. But I think people will be surprised for us once we start tackling, you know, where that silent treatment really comes from, right? And understanding our mate. And so that's tonight's topic, the silent treatment, tackling conflict resolution across all genders. And for the most part, as we continue to wait for people to come in, the bulk of this, we're going to be talking about conflict resolution, right? How men and women think we approach it, how we really approach it, and more important, what can we do to make it better? You know, we've been talking in the past about, you know, it's so easy to throw people away. We're going to try to speak to the ones where we can kind of keep together and put back together and learn a little bit, you know. So, again, if you guys haven't done so already, keep in mind we're on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We're on YouTube, and you can also follow the family on Facebook. We have our own group page. We're on Instagram. We're also on TikTok. So if you're out there on social media, it's kind of hard to miss us. And so if you didn't catch the show tonight or previous shows, we've been blessed with it. Season 3. You can catch all of that on where you watch your favorite podcast at. So look out. With this being said, let's just kick the door off with this topic. The silent treatment, tackling conflict resolution across genders. Let's just start talking about how we typically see men and women alike. How do they miss the mark of conflict resolution? Like, what are some traits, some skill sets that you think hurt from a woman's standpoint or a male standpoint that hurts conflict resolution, even if the person don't think they're doing it? I forgot. We got to get back to calling. So I give an example. The silent treatment, right? That can be looked at as a pro or con. Sometimes when your mate is silent, are they really listening to you, or is that silent treatment being used to literally ignore you, right? And so what I want to do is kind of delve into whether it's from a male standpoint or a female standpoint, how is that such trait? You know we got avoiding and, you know, sometimes raising up, but we got all these ones. But even if we start with the one of that silent treatment from a male's perspective or a female's perspective, why is that done? And more importantly, how is it interpreted, if that makes sense?
I guess I'll go. Let me see.
So I'm not sure. I think you're glitching. I don't.
Somebody glitching? Am I glitching? Hello?
Go ahead, Frankie.
Yeah, it's glitching. So that's why I'm like.
Is it a lag?
Frankie, are you there?
Yeah.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
You good?
Okay. Yeah. Now that's why I said, was it a lag? I don't know if you could hear me or not. Was it a lag?
No, you good.
Go ahead. It wasn't you though. Like.
Okay. Now what I would say, when you get to, I guess when you're in this instance or this part of a relationship or in like a argument, a rough patch, stonewalling normally I guess a given, you know, or as we are conversating tonight, the silent treatment is like I think Diana said it in conversations past, you know, you've told somebody over and over the same thing and they just don't comprehend, to where, you know, they do something where they do the same thing, you just kind of like stonewall them or just don't say nothing, or give them like a look.
Yeah.
And then that person's like, hey, what's going on? What's wrong? Or what's the problem? And then, you know, it kind of gets them, because like they brush whatever you've been telling them off to the side for so long, to where like I ain't saying it. The other person like, I ain't saying it no more, and just give you that look, and you like, dang, what did I do?
Right.
So,
right. So I think that's the thing right there off the bat. What you're saying is that it's used more of a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Right. Another
Yeah.
issue really on rise. So the topic at hand is not talked to, and I think right there off the bat, there's no conflict. Whether you can't resolve anything when there's a defense up. And you're right. There are different traits based on us just being a man or a woman, based on our personalities, that we can contribute. What we feel justified, but the other person don't see. And that's a number one thing, Frankie, that comes up. Usually when that defense or that guard comes up, that partnership or that working together, understanding goes down.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do to kind of open up this conversation a little bit more, I wanted call out Carlos just said some stats, not necessarily numbers, but keep in mind this is a generalization, right? This doesn't fit every man, it doesn't fit every woman. But what I want Carlos to do is kind of give an idea of how typically men, we'll do it for men and women, and then I think that'll open the conversation up. But just on such things such as being task-oriented, competitive, direct communication, how I think all these things we want, but how typically we as men and women, we approach them differently. And then I think we can have a better conversation. So, Carl, we're going to start with men first. And again, these are just topics and traits that we're looking for when we're trying to have conflict resolution. But the reality of it is we don't always hit that mark. And we'll start with the men first. So if you could go over that, and then we'll open it up. Can't hear you, Carlos.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yes.
A little technical difficulty. All right. So now with men, one of the traits are being task-oriented. Men are often seen more focused at the task at hand and achieving specific goals during conflict. Often being competitive is another trait. They'd be more likely to adopt a competitive or a confrontational approach when dealing with conflict resolution. All right. Direct communication. Men tend to communicate directly and may be less likely to engage in an indirect or emotional communication. Next, we have quick to resolve. Some studies suggest that men are more likely to make peace quickly after conflict and are less likely to hold a grudge. And lastly, aggressive. Men can be more aggressive and combative in conflict situations.
All right. So this is where we're going to turn to our sis on the panel, Diana. And we're going to talk transparently, right? Because if you listen to some of those things have some stereotypes in there that is just placed that typically that's what men do. But then there are some things in there where it's like, yeah, that's what men do. But as always in this podcast, what I want to do is actually hear from the gender that it affects. You know, a lot of times we always double down and know that think that it's okay with ourselves. But I kind of want to go back to that first one, Diana. Task oriented, when men are often seem to be focused more on the task at hand and achieving a specific goal. In other words, hey, we're trying to get to the solution.
Yeah.
You know, where you guys are kind of talking about your emotions and talking about the process and what went on. Again, how does that, as a woman, how do you take that when we're rushing in for the solution and you guys are trying to get us to understand how it got to that point, of understanding your emotions?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think when it comes to task oriented or trying to figure out how to navigate the problem, because men are ready to, not all men, but most men are ready to just fix it, like you said, get to the solution. And we want to kind of, take you down this, this bright and colorful storyline of, where we kind of went wrong and how, you made us feel in a certain scenario. I think it kind of makes them feel less heard in the matter, because we're trying to communicate the full picture and you just want to kind of get to the ending so that you can, rush in and, fix it. And that's not a lot of times what we need from our partner. We kind of need you to kind of sit back and allow us to give you that full story. Sometimes it's long-winded, but there's a reason behind it. And I think it's easier if the man just kind of allows us to get out whatever it is we're trying to talk about, so that, when it does come to, the part of the solution, that, it doesn't detour us from not feeling like we're being heard by you.
Okay.
I think trying to just get to the solution kind of takes away from what it is we're actually feeling, or what it is we actually want you to understand from our viewpoint. I think that's kind of where it gets hard for the woman to kind of open up more in that avenue, because you're just ready to get to the end and be like, okay, now I'm ready to fix it. But that's not necessarily what we require from you in that moment. Sometimes it's just easier. Sometimes it's better to just kind of, sit there and listen, so that we can get out whatever it is we're trying to tell you, and then we can both together come to the solution. Sometimes part of a partnership is both parties, what I'm saying, talking it out, and then together coming up with a solution that suits both people in that scenario. So I think that when you rush to try to fix it, you make the problem worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thank you so much for laying it out there that way, because I think a lot of times when it comes to gender roles, we assume, like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys who watching who probably assume, oh, I know that about a woman. But the reality is, what we're talking about, how can we take a good trait, right idea, wrong process? Because there's nothing wrong with being task-oriented, but listen to some of the things Diana said. First of all, how many times are we going to listen to someone if they don't feel like they're being listened to, right? And I know Carlos, I wanted you to kind of chime in on this. Because you and I talked about this. We were kind of similar in this, and still growing in this area. We transparent to where we come from back when we're as men, we want to fix it before we even taking time to understand how a person feels, what they expect. What if they don't fix it? I want you to kind of talk about that from from a man standpoint. Now that we've had a woman, hey, here's how this is making me feel, point blank period.
Yeah, it's a great point too. And Diana had a lot of great points. So when she talked about that, it's very difficult sometimes to hear our partner speak and they have a problem first off, because I'm a fixer too, something I'm still consistently working on. But hearing them speak, and then you hear that first problem that they're coming to, you automatically want to fix that. And again, like I said before, dealing with our theology and our background, we've been fixers. I had to raise my sisters and my brothers. I had siblings that I had to care for. So a lot of times the opportunity to listen wasn't given. You had to make action and have results. And when mom comes home, she wants, did you get that done? Did you get that done? I didn't know how to do it. Wasn't the answer. Getting it done was the answer. So when you get older, it kind of matriculates into what you are now. And you kind of take, hey, it worked for me then. Let me try this now. And if it's working now, why change something that is working? So when she said, listen, that was, I had to take that in, because I'm like, wow, I'm still working at that. Let me hear her out. And personally, I've done that with my wife. I've actually sat there and we had an experience just like that. She was talking. She said, the first thing, I want to fix it. I simply asked, do you need me to fix it? She said, no, just listen. And I listened all the way through it. And she ended up answering all her questions. And what I learned from it was, listen, like Dana said, just listen. And if she wants to ask, then she'll let me know. But it's hard. And I'm 53. This is not something that happened overnight, and I'm still adjusting. I got friends like you guys that consistently talk to, they help me sometimes, because sometimes I still get in my own way. So, hearing Diana talk about it kind of made me think, like, you know what, do I really want to talk about this and open myself up like that? But yeah. If we don't meet that.
So before we move on, man, and thank you for sharing that, man. I want to kind of give a shout out to some of the people that joined on, man. Again, it's not too late. We just in the beginning stages. I want to shout out Mocha, my Eastern Star sister down in Houston. Thank you for joining us. Marshall Roy Smith. I think somebody know her on this panel, man. I ain't never seen her a day before in my life. I don't know who that is, but I want to thank her. I'm just kidding, man. That's sis, man. Thank you so much for joining and having an opportunity to kind of engage. Dana, what you got? What you got for me?
Yes. So I wanted to talk about what Carlos was saying about how, when he had this scenario with his wife and he actually asked the question. I think that's so dope that you took the time out to actually ask, because I think a lot of times, because most men are ready to just kind of fix the scenario, they don't want to really hear all the bells and whistles of, what the problem is. I think part of understanding your partner is asking the question of, hey, I just want to make sure that, before we talk about whatever the problem is, I want to know that, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to listen and then, give you some feedback on whatever, I'm saying the problem is. I think that in itself, to a lot in humility for you to actually even ask the question, because again, it's not a normal everyday scenario where people actually do ask their partner, before they engage, what it is they're actually looking for, or what do you require from me before we begin to talk about whatever problem you have.
Yeah. And I want to pick one thing as we go through this journey that we're normalizing, but I want to be intentional for our audience. Sometimes we don't share our emotions because the opposite person weaponizes it instead of understanding it.
Yeah.
Right. The reality is we're not perfect. Right. I noticed some down and said after Carlos put that out there, well, look, we can appreciate that. You can't appreciate what you misconstrue. And I think that's where the original topic, get away from it. And now you're really dealing with emotions. You're not dealing with the topic anymore. Because if you notice with all these things, and when we start talking about the women and how they misconstrue conflict resolution, you'll see that it's an opportunity for us to really hit or miss. There is no gray area with that, right? So I think understanding that it's not personal, and then also allowing a person, we talked about before, okay, even if you make the mistake, you're trying to talk to me. We're trying to figure this out, right?
Yeah.
So we got to have some grace right there and not go off on that actual tangent. We'll do a couple more of these, and then we'll jump to from a woman's standpoint. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about the silent treatment, tackling conflict resolution across genders. So we're trying to understand, first of all, before we can even say we're doing conflict resolution, why is it so hard that we actually don't? So what we're doing is kind of taking a look at self from a male and a woman standpoint, on why there probably be some things within us that we don't know about that we're trying to do, but we're handling the wrong way. And so the first we talked about was task oriented from a man's standpoint. Men, we want to be the solvers and things of that sort. But like Dana said, you can't solve what I don't want you to resolve, right? It may not be able to be solved. It may be something that just need to be heard, right? Now, another one I want to talk about is direct communication. Carlos said men tend to communicate directly and may be less likely to engage in indirect or emotional communication. Yeah. And I'm going to come back to you again. Although that's typically men, hey, we want to get straight to it. Again, If we push y'all emotions out the way or make them insignificant, how does that typically bode well in a woman's mind toward that guy?
So I think it's obviously it's dependent on the person. Everything is dependent on the person when it comes to how a woman, would react in a scenario to where that she's having to, kind of battle whatever you're misinterpreting from her. So when it comes to communicating or being direct in communication, depending on the person, most women are indirect in that, it's not always straight out the gate, whatever the problem is, because depending on how many times she may have had to repeat herself in certain conversations, she may resort to slamming doors, indirect, indirect comments were like, "Oh, I just wish he would take the trash out." I don't know. That's like a normal thing that people always are talking about. It's something that's not being done. So little side jabs like that, or sometimes argumentative, right? To where it's like straight in your face, like all grace has gone out the window, because most times when it comes to a scenario like that, I'm pretty sure she's already communicated for the most part whatever the issue is. What the person chose to do, in that scenario can kind of derail her mindset, because it's like, I've told you, 3 or 4 times, what the issue is, and we're still kind of, going in circles about said issue. So there's a lot of frustration and sometimes a borderline resentment, because it's like, what's the point of me having this conversation with you, and we're just going to keep going in circles but behind it. It's at that point, it's kind of just like probably giving you the silent treatment. You're not getting anything from her. She's just like stone faced, just ignoring you. You know what I'm saying? Kind of just in her own little bubble for the time being. And no matter how many times you ask her what's wrong, most times it's going to be nothing's wrong. I'm fine. So I think that's where the man has to kind of know his partner, engage the scenario to be like, okay, I know you said that, you know what I'm saying, you're everything's okay, you're fine, but it's not. But guess what? Do men do that? No. Most times they're like, all right, cool, bet. I'm finna go play my game, or I don't know, go hang with the boys. Whatever other scenarios. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Whatever other scenarios to kind of not have to deal with it, because men shut down too. So after a while, they're tired. They don't want to keep asking you, what's wrong, and your answer is, I'm fine, I'm good, don't worry about it. All right, well, guess what logic 101, you said don't worry about it, so I'm not gonna worry about it.
I had to hit it with that. Woo, man, I'm glad ain't nothing wrong, man. Let me get back to this too.
That's great. Oh God. Thank you. Man. Thank you for making it easy. All right, I'm done.
And look, first thing, let's address what's important first. There's nothing wrong with a video game console. No, I'm just kidding. I'm saying all of that. First of all,
no.
I think I speak for all fellas.
I play.
No, I'm just kidding.
No. I play too. So guess what? All I'm saying is, I'm not saying that like I don't think there's anything wrong. I will game with you. You hear me? But like that's just an example that I've heard a million times from other women about their scenarios. Like, oh, you always want to play the game, and I'm like, well, I play the game with them. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh shoot, let's go. But
so, and I want to read something that Marcy posted. and it goes heavily along. Cause this is this part where we're talking to each other, right? Like oftentimes, you know, I'll use this example as men, we're thinking it's talking at each other. It's like now it's like apples and oranges, right? She said, because God made us emotional creatures, that's going to come through first, but we will eventually get the point. We have to let you know how whatever made us feel, and then we will work together to resolve it. I think oftentimes that's why I say we get lost in right and wrong, and it's about what's effective at that point. Yeah. And like Donna said, if you know your mate, okay, if she is more emotional, these are not excuses, right? Because you can still be emotional and be displaying your emotion the wrong way. But if you know that's a characteristic, and again, we want to be problem solvers. It's not problem solving the way we probably handle work, fellas, right? Yeah. Like that woman can be handled like that project at work. And I think a lot of times we'll take that sign because we don't see it over here, and that ain't been over here. Yes. Well, you're tripping, right? Let's be honest, right? So we have to develop a whole different way and be willing to go through trial and error, because you may get it wrong that first time, so on and so forth. But I think the core of it, what we're hearing is that, okay, it's one thing to be task oriented. Okay, they love that and whatnot. But now, if we take these skill sets and we're using them in the wrong way at the wrong time, who wouldn't want to be direct and communicate? Sometimes that's a given. We'll talk about that. Sometimes men need to help women because they're emotional. So how do you complement it? We fight, right? We fight again. Which one? You all have good intentions, but how do you balance it? And I think that's a conversation we, like Dan alluded to, we don't have until ultimately we're in the situation, right? Yeah. So, Marcy, I definitely appreciate that conversation right there.
Oh God.
We got Barton says,
that's my dad.
Oh my God. That's dad?
I think that's
my dad.
She threw it out there. She like, oh my God.
Look,
you might be so many. Like, don't put up the poker face on.
You're supposed to keep your poker face on.
Special guest, get to break the rules.
What's up, Dad?
Thank you for joining us.
Don't let my dad put anything up there.
And man, look, thank you, Dan. I guess you really believe what we're saying is somewhat right, because if you bring Dad into it, I guess it's you gotta have something right. Hey, fellas, best behavior. No, I'm kidding. So let's take one more of these. No, seriously, thank you for joining in, Mr. I have to say Mr. Barton. You can't say Darwin. You gotta Mr. Barton now one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But no, thank you for joining in. So let's talk about one more, and then we're going to turn our attention right to women, right? Because we want to always keep it balanced. And I think this is one that it's easy to recognize first and foremost, but I want to spend a little time talking about it, and that's that aggressive, right? Men can be more aggressive and combative in conflict situations. And one thing we talked in our debrief, and I want to kind of just open this up. I want to make sure that we understand that we're not just talking about when it gets physical. Yeah. That's definitely wrong. But I think there are some precursors, Frankie, Carlos, that we don't talk about amongst men before we get to that actual point. And so that's why I want to kind of take some time, and then I want to have Donna kind of chime on the lens of, now again, this is general, right? This can be a hard conversation if you just insert yourself in it. This is in general, right? Men and women can be different because you have it on women, but I digress, right? When it comes to that aggressive, men will more assertive by nature. But what are some ways where we definitely know the physical? And I think a lot of times we think like this. When I ain't put my hands on you, so no, down. It's some other things we can do to bring about that uncomfortableness. So can we talk about that in a little bit? Mm-hmm.
Oh, you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, just from and again, I know we didn't go through these things. We're not these people, but we're speaking to the honest. We want to be able to go there, right? Like, what does that put a woman in? For example, I'll throw it out there. When we raise our voice. Yeah. Right? Oh, I'm not being physical. Yeah. But my tone can do more talking than the topic. That makes sense.
Or the cold shoulder.
Yes. Yeah. So I I'm losing my train of thought, but yeah. So when it comes to I think that's one of the lines that people use a lot is, well, I didn't put my hands on you, so everything should be okay, or I didn't cheat on you, so we should be cool. But you're mentally, you know what I'm saying, or emotionally abusing me in some way, shape or form, whether it is raising your voice or it is maybe calling that person out of their name, or you know what I'm saying, taking things from them, you know, whether it be financial, you may be the breadwinner. So, you know, you might close off, you know, some of the accounts that that person needs access to, or you may try to limit, you know what I'm saying, what a person, you know, kind of do. So the control factor kind of shows up, or I mean, sometimes, yeah, it could be physical, but not in the sense of like actually, putting your hands on that person, but, you know, jumping at them or kind of raising your hand. You know what I'm saying? There's so many other ways that you, or, you know, just trying to strike fear into a person in general, could kind of showcase that as well. So I think people don't understand that, yes, physical abuse is it's not a good thing regardless, but you know, physical scars they'll fade away, but that mental and that emotional aspect, those scars are there there forever, because guess what? It's up here. So they're gonna always remember, you know what I'm saying, some of the things you said, or some of the things you've done to them. You know, flashbacks are, you know, it's almost as if you're reliving, you know what I'm saying, it's almost as if you're reliving, you know, the scenario, because, you know, you could walk past that person every day, and, you know, just remembering, you know what I'm saying, those things can trigger you in a sense, to where that you're also in like a fight or flight mode. And you're trying to figure out your avenue, or you're walking on eggshells, because you don't know when that person's going to kind of go off, in a sense.
Yeah. And Frank, I saw your hand up. I definitely want you to get your point in, but I was going to come to you anyway, because I want you to kind of talk about your experience. We kind of talked about this, where, you know, even your days in law enforcement, where you're trying to calm it down, right? And God probably didn't have no intention of making it physical, but that attitude and that approach and how that looks, to where it's like, all right, somebody got to be taken away, so to speak. But I don't want you to lose your original thought. But if you could speak on that also, I greatly appreciate it for the audience.
No, that's gonna be part of my original thought. I want to chime in first.
Okay.
By saying, I think we should have led with this is like the PSTD portion of the silent treatment.
PTSD.
It might not be geared towards the new mate, the new partner, because it's the PTSD from the old partner, from their past. So that's what I want to start off with first, and then that'll bring me into like law enforcement. Man, I showed Jay, I sent Jay a video the other day that was on my one of my law enforcement pages, man. And heck, we unfiltered King, so I'm just gonna keep it a buck. Same thing I told Jay, man. When you see stuff like that in that video, because I told him flat out, I said, man, they either he need to leave or she need to leave, or they both gonna stay together until they kill each other. You know what I'm saying? Because the gist of the video was my man was trying to get out of his apartment by any means. She had a knife, and he was showing, to me, in my opinion, he was showing every restraint he could not to do what he really needed to do to her. Because, mind you, she's wielding a knife. She's trying to get back in the apartment, trying to stab him, and he's just trying to kick out the apartment. He finally got out the apartment and closed the door. So, I mean, these are the type of situations that law enforcement deal with in domestic violence or family violence type cases. And the unfortunate effect is that these guys or these ladies go right back to it.
Yeah.
So if they're fortunate enough to live through it, survive through it, they end up having PTSD. And what brings it to this topic is maybe the partner that they had treated them like speak only when spoken to, or only speak when I tell you to speak, and either hit them with it or verbally abuse them with it or mentally abuse them with that per se. And another thing, and I kind of feel like I'm jumping the gun because these could be in solutions too. You have to differentiate between silence, and the silent treatment, because there is such thing as I want to say they call it productive silence or something like that, where you know that's kind of like for anybody, like it's like when you get home, been a long stressful day, you need a minute, you go in your room or you go in the bathroom, you close the door, take clothes off, you know, change into your night clothes or whatever other clothes clothes you relax in, you take a breather, you take a moment, you by yourself, you silent, or even when you're partner around, you know, they see you silent, just that's you just taking a minute to de-stress or soak everything all in until you're able to speak. So that's not the so we can't get that confused with the silent treatment, because a little bit after that, probably, and it might not take that long for them to decompress, you know. But once they do, they're gonna start talking to you. So it wasn't a silent treatment to begin with. So never jump the gun until you know, if you can differentiate between the two. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So keep in mind again, these may be qualities and traits we have within our gender. But if you notice, I think a lot of time we only think that the way we go about showing them is wrong based on the extremes. Like Diana and Frankie are saying, well, of course, we know that. But I think it's also toward this conversation when the goal is to conflict resolution. What are some bad things that get us to those points? Because, you know, not all the time is it the choice to go from 0 to 60, so to speak. But if we are giving ourselves permission and not thinking about those processes, well, yeah, I can mess around. Well, I'm cool. But that could be that thing in the back of my head that I know takes me to 0 to 60. And if I never dealt with that, and I never shared that with my mate, and I'm put in a situation, well, guess what? Right idea, wrong process. So I think it's very important that we look at these different ways. Again, we're talking about from a man's standpoint, ways what hurt us on our ability to have some conflict resolution in normal things, task-oriented, direct community. Yeah, these are things men want to have, but we fail to be able to have conflict resolution because we handle them the wrong way, right? So I want to make sure our audience is still with us. And again, we're talking about the silent treatment, tackling conflict resolution across genders. We know silent treatment, one of the big components of it, but we're talking about a lot more of them that prevent us from conflict resolution. So now we want to turn our attention from women to women. And again, this is generalization. You know, y'all, we got to say that because we'll have people, we bash women and then we talk about both genders. This is a generalization, like Diana said, right? This doesn't fit. Sometimes it be the man or the woman. We're just looking at the typical ways that typically men and women have looked for based on our studies. So, Carlos, if you could read the women's perspective, and then we'll kind of chime in and kind of go back and, you know, pick a couple of them down and we'll move on.
Okay. We got enough time to read all these? I'm just kidding. Just a few.
See, there you go, man. Retract. Oh, Lord have mercy.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. All right. For the women, these are some just typical things. One trait is relationship oriented. Women often prioritize maintaining relationships and emotional connection during conflict. Another one is compromising. They'd be more likely to compromise or be accommodated in order to preserve the relationship. The next trait is, I ain't going to say this right.
Socio-emotional communication.
Socio-emotional communication. Women tend to communicate socio-emotionally, focusing on feelings and relationships. The next trait is avoidant. Some research suggests that women may be more likely to avoid conflict altogether. And last but not least, phone locked up. Sorry, James, read that last one.
A collaborative. They may be more likely to adopt a collaborative approach to conflict resolution. All right. So again, these are some general terms, and we'll go back and we'll kind of break it down. These are traits, keep in mind, that we look for in our mate, right? In the opposite mate. You know, I look for this in a woman, I look for that in the male, but based on how we handle them, they could be wrong. So I want to go with the one compromising, right? That sounds like a good trait, right? But as Frankie alluded to, and not to kind of, have to kind of retell it again, but there are some cases where compromising isn't the solution. It's kind of like with men, right? We're given a false solution. Really, we should just listen. And so there are times where women compromise to keep the peace or just kind of go along, but it's compromising, putting them in a bad situation, right? Like you're not doing any conflict resolution. You don't have someone that's understanding. You're just kind of keeping the peace. And so I think with that one, I wanted to mention that one. I think Frankie has already talked about it in experience with the video. Definitely, you need to get out that situation, right? Like that's not a situation you should stay in. And even sometimes, like Frankie said, even when you see women who stay, you want to be sensitive to that, because if they have gotten used to that, it's easy in our minds. Hey, well, you should just stay. But what if they've always been put in a situation where compromise is the only thing that feels like a solution at that time, right? So I think that is one. Now, avoiding. Let's talk about this one, fellas. From our standpoint, when we feel that a woman is avoiding what we're saying, what mindset does that put us in as men? If we could speak to the audience on that.
I would like to say, starting out, that in many cases with myself, it was kind of hurtful at first, because I'm telling you, I'm talking to you, I've heard you talk to me several times. Let's just say you have told me, and then I get it, and then I try to talk to you about it, but then you push it over, taking the last couple of experiences as the basis of the conversation we're having now. So instead of talking to me, you decide to avoid me, because now you're not either not taking me serious, or you feel I'm saying the same thing, but I'm trying to talk to you and you're avoiding me, or deflecting or redirecting to something else, not taking me seriously as I'm stopping to be offended sometimes. So, it makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm trying to talk to you. You say I don't do this, I'm doing this, whether I'm doing it because I feel like I need to, or I do this because you're telling me to. It can go either way.
Yeah, so some frustration builds up, in other words. And there we go again. It kind of leads away from the topic. I introduced this new emotion. Now I'm fighting for that emotion and not what we're talking about. Donna, you had something you want to chime in on?
That was like way earlier when Frankie was talking. And I think I lost whatever it was I was going to say. It's fine.
Okay, my bad. Hey, Dad, don't be, man, getting me in trouble, man. Dad, it was just an oversight. I don't want no trouble. No, but seriously, notice again on both sides, even when we just talked about women, a lot of time it's not intentional, but without knowing it, we're introducing other issues on the table. And again, I think that's one, when we were talking about earlier, one woman and her emotions, right? Entertaining her emotions, but there's a balance to that also, right? Because sometimes those emotions can be wrong in how they're being distributed, right? So if you use just avoiding it now with me speaking on that, okay, I hear what you're saying, but hey, that, like Dinah said, okay, you throwing something across the room because you're upset. Wait a minute. Now, if I want to discuss that and you just kind of shut it down, well, no, there's going to be some frustration sitting in, right? And I think that goes back to gender bias, what we do this podcast about. Do we have the same expectation with men and women? Right? A lot of time, if that's a woman, well, she's emotional. Well, men now have to swallow their emotion. No, we're human, right? Or if a woman acts on her emotions, oh, she's an angry black woman. No, she has a right to act on her emotions, right? And so I think that avoiding is a situation in itself, probably one that's up there with the silent treatment, right? They're probably like on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Well, I'll just sit here and be quiet and won't say nothing. or I'll just sit there and downplay, just act like you're not here or whatnot. And for as hard as it is for men to open up about their emotions, my goodness, I think Diana, when I was talking one time, I think a lot of men, man, when we open up on certain things and we see that rejection or that avoidance, it's hard to open up again. Yeah. Right. And so that's definitely dangerous within itself. I want to talk about this because this is one of them big old words, and we just gonna break it down. Socio-emotional communication. A lot of time women use this one, and this is a big word where it's more about the emotions are attached to what's going to play out in society, so to speak. And I think a lot of time, again, this is a general statement. I feel like we're going to be attacked. Women sometimes be more concerned about the make or break of the household, the living status, or children. So I'll just keep the peace, right? I won't really say what I'm really going to say because, hey, I gotta keep the peace, right? I gotta keep the family together, things of that sort. And there you go again, a great trait. Any woman that's concerned about the household and helping the family unit stay together, that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But how you process that, no, that shouldn't come at the expense of, you feeling neglected or, being abused on, or you're falsely accusing your mate, right? Mm-hmm. So again, you can't defend that. So I want to kind of open that one up, and then I see we have some more comments. Did you guys? And right now, I want to kind of speak from a fellow standpoint. Dan, if you have something to join in, but from a male standpoint, what do you feel is also some dangers of that, to where, hey, I'm trying to talk to you, you're really not listening, you're just kind of keeping the peace because you don't want to lose your thing, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I would state to what we talked about Tuesday, and like I said, like I call it the big deal until it is a big deal type deal. And that's dealing with us not realizing that we might have brought it to that point nonchalantly, if I could say that word, if that would fit there. But like, okay, it was said over and over and over and over. And yeah, okay, I got you. That was done. What we perceived not to be a big deal was somehow a big deal, to where it got to the point to where now she, I think Diana, what she said too, that Diana like kicking the car or signs that we should have seen beforehand, but didn't recognize it. And and like I said, sometimes as men, certain things for both men and women are like, this might be important to me, but she might not feel it's important to her, and vice versa. And I think that's how we get to these things, and everything all leads back to communication. So if it wasn't communicated to begin with, like, hey, this was a big problem, but which it was, or maybe the understanding of it, which came from the last podcast, you know what I'm saying, was misconstrued, and now we're at this whole big jumble of a point where it's gotten out of hand, where stuff is being thrown, or we're getting that silent treatment. So yeah.
So let me pause right quick, man. I'm glad when we have any guests, but I would be remiss. Carlos and our very own pastor of Community Church of Christ, JK, has joined the live, and so I definitely want to welcome you, sir. I know your day is very busy, and so for you to join in on the conversation and support us, man, we greatly thank you for that, and so I'm honored to have you a part of our community. With that being said, Juanita out of Houston, she made a great point. She says men are actually more just as emotional as women. They just have different ways of expressing themselves. See, that's why I wanted us fellas to kicking the door, because we don't get to talk like that, right? Else we're weak, right? Or else we're looked upon. Oh, that's a lie, right? No, there are some things. When she say just as, because we're human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's drop this gender bias. If you kick me, it hurts. It's not being suck it up. Like Frankie said, you get mad and punch a hole in the wall. Well, I'm gonna be 9-1 and I'm almost on the 1. Something wrong with you, right? Because you put in a compromising situation. So I love the fact that she mentioned that. And again, coming from a woman, let's normalize that.
Yeah.
We make some of the biggest mistakes by putting understanding each other's emotions through just gender alone.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's where we meet you. So definitely good to see you. What else do we have here?
Appreciate that, Juanita.
I know when we were talking about avoiding, she says avoiding can be dangerous for women. Some men who haven't healed from some traumas can take avoidance as offensive. But let's see, we don't talk like this. See, we love talking about who did wrong. That's real, right? By no means are we condoning physical violence, emotional violence, but we're talking about cause and effect, right?
Yeah.
We are in a world as men where we are told to be a man, to be a real man. We ain't supposed to talk about our feelings, right? We're supposed to just show and do, right? So we already have that, and we find somebody who changes us and motivates us to open up, and you cut that out by avoiding it. That can be very offensive from that person's lack of emotional intelligence, right? So not only is it about what you're saying, have you had conversations? Say, are we ready to have certain conversations, right? And so, we were going to talk about that. That's more of the physiological makeup of just us being us as men and women. Just like if a woman is soft spoken, well, that don't mean, like Frankie said, that don't mean she's practicing silence treatment. That just means she's probably listening, active listening ahead, choosing, waiting to choose. That's a good thing. But if we come in as a man and think that's something negative, then that's definitely going to be a problem. And then one last thing, and then we'll transition into how do we fix these things, right? We looked at ways that men try to have conflict resolution but fail, and now we're looking at some things where women do it, and we're talking about the silent treatment, tackling conflict resolution across genders. I thought this one was interesting, and I'm not gonna lie, Dan, I do want to hear your opinion on this, because women are typically more relationship oriented. They prioritize maintaining the relationship and emotional connection during conflict. And I think Juanita alluded to this, that can be dangerous, because if your ultimate goal is just to keep the person, now you start tolerating some things, some seeds that can grow, right? And so I wanted, if you don't, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I wanted to see if you had any feedback on that from a woman who you're just cherishing the relationship and it's the best thing since sliced bread, and you start handling conflict resolution by just ignoring the signs, and where that leaves the woman potentially.
Yeah. So, I mean, women, we do it all the time. You get what I'm saying? So, this isn't anything that's foreign. My favorite notion is what you allow will continue. So that's normally what happens, because women do want to, they want to, at some point they want to keep what they have, and they'll do pretty much anything, go through, whatever, to just say they have a partner, a body next to them, for better terms. So they will avoid, certain things to keep that person, because I think some of it is that they factor in is like, well, I've put all this time in and all this work. I'm comfortable in this setting, even though it may be a very uncomfortable setting, and then, you have the world, right? So they don't want, judgment based on, whatever the scenario is. So they will avoid, and they will keep, and they will allow, any, whatever, just to say, they have that person. But also I know we keep talking about, I'm going to jump off of that part of it, but it is very much true that, because we are loving and we do want our relationships to work out, there's a lot of things that we will withstand before we, decide to, to walk away. We will do as, you know what I'm saying, as much as we can, you know, to keep the peace, to keep the partner, until, you know, pretty much death for most parts. If you look at, you know, women back in the day, I mean, they were in marriages, you know, 25, 30 years, but how much of that was quality? You get what I'm saying? So can you imagine, you know, what when their partner, you know, passed away, you know, they can finally, I don't know, wear pants or, you know, go to a movie. Like there were so many things that they were restricted from, and, you know, that they allowed, you know, to, you know, keep, you know, Johnny and James in the home. You know what I'm saying? So that's just normal. It's like you gotta work through everything. You know, it's hard work, you know, keep at it and lay down and let all these things happen, and that shows that you're you know, a strong woman, and, you know, you're the best partner ever, not realizing that it's really killing them, for lack of better terms. But two, I know we keep talking about you know, how it's so dangerous for a woman if she avoids, you know, whatever the man says, but it's also dangerous for the man too, because men do the same thing. They will allow so many things to transpire, you know what I'm saying, and not say a single word, you know. So it's I think it's dangerous for both parties. And then men have to get out of that logic of, oh, you know, I can't, you know, talk about my emotions, because you can. You get what I'm saying? Like at some point, you know, that was a thing where, you know, it was highlighted that men couldn't talk about, you know, their emotions. But in this day and age, it's very much a thing that men do. You get what I'm saying? It's just understanding who you're talking to, you know, who your partner is, and what you are communicating to them. That whole emotional men, because we're supposed to be strong and warriors and machines, that logic is outdated. And I just can't keep hearing, you know, the thing about, you know, your emotion. Oh, you can't talk about it. Yeah, you can. You talk about everything else. So why is this such a hard notion for you to just get out? You know, it's not. You talk all the time. You mean to tell me you can't tell me how you feel because you're gonna be perceived as weak or you know, not a man? Like, please, like it's crazy that we're still, you know, utilizing that as a crutch in 2025.
Yeah.
So
Sorry. It's
no.
I can't stand it.
Let's go there. Mr. Darden, you still on here?
Stand it.
I want to make sure he. No,
yeah, my dad. I'm pretty sure he is. But I'm just saying, I think that I personally.
Go ahead.
I think that I think that is a terrible crutch. You know, it's almost as that it's almost as if that is being weaponized. You get what I'm saying? Because it's like, oh, I'm sorry, babe. I can't tell you how I feel because I'm gonna be perceived as X, Y, and Z. But how many times have we had a conversation, or you talked to your boys or whoever, and you were talking about whatever? If you can't talk about stuff with your partner, then why are you with them? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, what is it that's dividing you from having that conversation with your partner?
Right.
Yeah. So can I chime in
other than your childhood trauma? You get what I'm saying? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can I chime in just a little bit? To kind of back up Diana, or per se piggyback off that. That's a common misnomer too about men. Because men do want to uphold relationships. We just do it in a different way, other than women, and that is one of the ways: hold the family together, keep the job steady, keep the house, make sure the bills are paid. Those are ways in a man's mind, and this always come back to what Jay said. Even though we were taught this, in this generation, it could be a wrong teaching. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, this is how we were taught to uphold the relationship and keep it going. You know, always let her get the word, never over talk her, or stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Even man, when I used to go to calls, I'd be like, man, hey man, just let her win, bro. Walk off. Go walk around the block. And to a man, that's crushing. That's a like, bro, but bro, like I ain't even start nothing.
Let me kind of jump in here, because this is I'm so glad that Downer kind of kicked the door down, because we do not talk about this. We don't talk about it from a proactive standpoint. We're usually talking from a reactive standpoint, right? Yeah. It's either all good and candy and daisies, or now someone's gotten offended, and that's a different lens. And so that's why I say, and I didn't want to kind of go off in detail earlier, but there are psychological and sociological issues that has nothing to do with man and woman. Even if I went spiritually, and I'll keep that over there, but there is a real enemy. Let me put it like that. Yes. And so to me, this is why it's so important that we do self-work first. Because even as I'm not healed, me being not healed doesn't disqualify me. What it does when it gets to the moment, I can now give down to something to understand. Because that problem, I keep saying, that problem may be 5 minutes. But what I'm dealing with may be 5 years. There is no way that I can give you something 5 minutes that I have not followed in 5 years. Boy, I almost got emotional. Like, I'm just being honest with the audience, right? And so by the time
you're right.
Here's where the enemy comes in. We're fighting each other when that's an opportunity where God say heal each other. And that's why I say that 80-20. You ain't never met 100% person. But do we really go in, focus on the 80? Oh, Donna got this and she this and her skin and this and that. She got 20. And if I don't really deal with that, I can't deal with hers because I ain't dealt with mine. I have to not be too good of a good person to see some of these things that Donna is talking about. But that homework should be done beforehand. Right? But we don't. Right. And I want to make sure our audience hear that, because we're not getting into gender bias. We don't believe in that. In 2025, she's not saying that it's not relevant, that it doesn't happen. What she's saying, hey, for us who understand, who know, we can't use that as an excuse. Because I think a lot of times, even when we give advice, no, if that's the case, then guess what? Let's go get some help. Like, it has to be a next step in that, right? So that's not to be insensitive. That's not to label it to just one gender. But I think a lot of time, man, we just know what we like. And we don't focus on what we don't like until it offends the other person. And then we try to force the other person, not as bending. Now, that being you is part of the problem. Right? Because when you get with somebody, you ain't seeing every way they think, every way they feel, you're not doing that, right? So sometimes it takes some time, and that right? So are you transparent, or are you being that representative? So I can be the representative, tell you what you want, do what I like and whatnot, because a lot of time, and this is true with men, because we deal with so much. I talked to Carlos about this. We take on responsibility, ain't even ours, because we're supposed to be men. That ain't my fight. What we usually do is take on extra stuff and we justify not dealing with our own. Right? We want mercy, grace, and understanding, not dealing with. No, I don't care. Mama, sister, brother, husband, son, daughter. You got to take care of self first. And I think that's something that we as men, we got to get out of that. We hear what women are saying, but it is not being a man providing physically, but suffering emotionally. That's what a lot of time we do. We get the job, we know how to provide, we know how to pay bills, but when it comes time where that woman wants to understand from emotional standpoint, we got to understand emotionally, we ain't never cultivated. And there are times also where women ask for the material first over the emotion. The emotion only comes in when they're ready to show emotion. So we gotta find a way to continue to have this ongoing conversation together when it's all said and done. As Dana articulated, it only becomes about a man or a woman when you're in it and it's your time to speak on it. I'm not thinking about a woman's thing, but look, I'm upset right now. But as we always say, what about the proactive time when we're in a time of peace? Are we too busy being mushy out the movie and this, or can we have real conversation when the problem is not there? So by the time the enemy comes in, we prepared for that.
Right.
Right? Oh, we got that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about normalizing these conversations. I'm sorry, y'all had to get on my soapbox, but I'm glad you brought that in. Let's get back to some of the
no, you did that. You did that. So,
yeah. I feel myself getting emotional because we sometimes forget, I promise I'm gonna lead it. We forget the enemy don't care about now one of us. That's if you're a believer. I'm a believer, so I'm gonna speak on it. We forget that he don't care about now. He don't care who go first, who go last, who have the first one, last one. So when we become each other's enemy, actually, watch this. I swear I'm gonna be quiet about this. He can walk away. His job can be done. He don't have to get us to do. He can. Oh, y'all confused. Y'all at each other. I don't already sowed the seed. The seed gonna grow itself because y'all don't start watering the seed of negativity instead of conflict resolution. Right. So what you said, I tell people all the time that there are very few things in this life that get better when you ignore it. Boy, look at here. If I run, y'all just fill in. You have to grow and learn how to have hard relationships without there being combative conflict. Some things have to be confronted, but in the relationship, things should be done in love. See, that's the thing. And I'm glad she called it. I see we don't speak like that anymore in 2025. Let's deal with some of the uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
Hey, if I say, tell me about you, watch this. Can I tell you about some of my upbringing? Can she tell you that, hey, look, in my house, it was always arguing when you shared your emotions. So I learned just to be quiet. So this is not silent treatment. Can we be that transparent?
Yes.
Can we as men be transparent when I say, well, guess what? Hey, if I came from an abusive household and I'm the male and that male was emotionally abusive, hey, my tone gets loud. That's a learned behavior like my name.
Yeah.
Can we have them conversations without judging each other?
Yes.
You see the two walls we live between, vulnerability and judgment. Everybody wants the other person to be vulnerable, but when they do, you're quick to judge them. So see, some of these times we don't have these conversations. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just talking, so jump in. Sometimes we don't have these conversations because we don't allow our mate to have them. See, we selfish. I want you to say and give me this, but I don't want to take the accountability and understanding here. I want to be able to be judge and jury. Tell the jury what happened. Well, okay, on that night, did what I did. 10-year sentence. Well, damn, I ain't telling you nothing, right? Yeah. So not all the time, if you notice in this space, we have not talked about one issue amongst men and women. Matter of fact, we've been talking about conflict resolution, how to resolve it. But look at all the muddy water that comes from just one component. We talked about listening last week, right? Are you listening or active listening? Now we're on the road of conflict resolution. All the things we assume we've been doing. Look at all the demands that we've been putting on our mate. And it's like, like that. And guess what? Y'all ain't had one conversation about it. Because you ain't done the work yourself.
Hey, James, as you was talking too, and we alluded to here a little bit about is that when dealing with conflict resolution, one of the things that we touched on a little bit that we need to bring to light is that in conflict resolution, sometimes the person is not even looking for resolution. They're looking for their point to be verified and validated. Oh, you ain't got to say that. Just say I was right. That's not a resolution. That's still a conflict. And sometimes having this conversation, just because you come to the table saying, I want to talk, how you come talking, what you want to talk about, it needs to look like what type of resolution are you trying to come to. So when they talk about the trait of a woman being relationship oriented, has anyone thought about this part? Well, in relation to what? In relation to me, in relation to the house, to the money I provide, to the vehicles that's there, to the well-being of the children. Those things are all important too, but without you and your partner having those things working out together, that can become an unhealthy place. So a lot of times when we talk about this, we have to pay attention to, if you're getting that self-help, when you come to the table with a true resolution, not just what you're looking for. If you got that self-help, then you're coming with saying, look, I'm trying to work this out to make it better for the both of us, but I started with me first.
Yeah.
When you come into it looking at that person, you're actually looking at them on what they can fix for me or what you can fix for them. So I just wanted to bring that part in.
Man, it's almost like you being together and y'all getting ready to move into one place and everybody trying to bring everything and put in the same place.
Bingo.
2 couches, 2 stoves, 2 TVs, 2 tables. At some point in time, you have to reserve a space for your mate's emotions, how they handle those emotions. And it's not only, like Carlos said, just reserving the space. You have to be actively prepared to work. A lot of us have jobs that we know what our regular job is, but in the event of something happen, it may not happen all the time, but there's an SOP somewhere. And even if that happens, okay, I know what to do. Right? May not work or may not be 100%, but it's almost like you better have something built up. And I just think a lot of time we spend a lot of time on the thing. We spend a lot of times on having the good things that we don't do any foundational building. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say SOP it, Venn diagram it, man. Like I was alluding to earlier, we both have, men and women both have their concepts of relationships. Somewhere in that, when you do the little Venn diagram, somewhere in the middle, we both gonna have common interests.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So once we find our common interests for the relationship, then we build on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love what you said, because a lot of time, notice a lot of these things we talked about, it is so easy to get off. What are we practicing? Conflict resolution. What's the real issue? We done brought up, and now these issues are valid, but we done gotten away from, what topic was we supposed to be working on conflict resolution on, right? And that's the danger of emotions, not being able to practice emotional intelligence. We done picked up all these emotions, and now I'm speaking to Diana's emotion. Now she speaks to my emotion. Then I practice that emotion wrong. Then the topic goes sitting over here, right? And so now when we finally take a breath, we realize, damn, I'm lost. Like, what are we talking about again? And that's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
So now we're more picking at each other. Let's look at some more comments. Keisha, I see you. Yep. Both gender narrative crutches aren't valid anymore. Simply said, right? That's not to say that we do not talk. That does not say we do not discuss. That does not mean that we don't be truthful with each other. Because hell, I could be still dealing with some 40-some years of living. You think that in 5 years I'm solved? No. What if it's something I'm managing? So now I have to sit down and come and say, hey, baby girl, this is something I'm managing. Will you judge me? Am I a bad person? Am I looked at? Oh, no, I'm managing this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's leave the gender narratives and not make them into crutches, but also I almost said keep 100, but I ain't want down to the, after the show, she gonna get me for that one. Let's keep it up. You know what I mean? I said it. Let's keep it up. Do we really want it? And can we really receive it without our judgment? And I think that comes from a more of a place where people not opening up because they don't want to be judged. You know what I mean? Especially for men, man. Yeah, it is hard for us to talk to our emotions. And I want to touch on one thing and we'll move on. Yeah, even though we talk with our homeboys, Dana, and my ladies out there, yeah, we talk with frat brothers and all this stuff. It's different.
Yeah.
That's literally why this podcast is here. Because, yeah, me and Frankie used to talk, man. Big brother, Carlos, you talk, and we realized, like, yeah, we need another voice, and we need that woman's voice. Right. So even though we can't talk about those things, that type of communication is completely different than sometimes the spaces we want to share with you guys. So let's turn our attention. This is good conversation, man. The silent treatment, tackling conflict resolution across gender. We're looking at conflict resolution and some of the things that we may have good traits on, but we may be practicing in the wrong way. So now we're turning our attention. Finally, we're going to try to land this plane before we touch on one more topic, is bridging the divide. So we've heard a lot of the grievances, right? We've heard a lot of the things. Let me see if I make sure I have any more comments. What's up? Is that Ramo? Oh, my eyes is not going bad. Juanita says the enemy has us fighting each other rather than fighting the issue. Come in the room, man. Like, we'll forget that easily, you know what I'm saying? And we grab our things and throw away the person. So with that being said, we've aired out our grievances. We've seen some of the things that's different. Okay, we got Keith. What's the difference? Is it more nurturing responses you tend to get from a female compared to a male friend? Oh shit, how's she gonna add me on my pocket? Okay, you know what I'm saying? Well, boy, you get a little somebody and you accept that little friend request, they feel they can just call you out on the show. You know what I'm saying? We'll talk about that later. No, that's a great question.
Yeah.
It's different in the fact exactly right? Like when we talk about the skill set of a man and woman, we have to look at it from a proactive standpoint. Women are more emotional. That is a good thing. A lot of time, believe it or not, that's what a man looks for in a woman. And so he's not going to open up and be, open up that soft side or open up that communicative side to a dude in the same way that this woman has created a safe space for. And quite frankly, we're going to keep it above. Right. She can offer me something that guy can never do if we're looking at that properly, right?
Yeah.
So in general, that safe place is there. It's just like with a woman. Yeah, a woman can be safe, get a gun like a door, but that safety that a man provides is not only physical. Knowing the fact that you won't raise your voice for me even to feel this way, or knowing that you will tell me everything, it goes both ways. And so a lot of times, that's what we miss in the gender bias. We don't resonate and see the true benefit of it, right? So it's almost become implied, Dana. Like, well, yeah, I know my woman gonna listen to me. Well, no, think about that as an asset instead of, well, that's just anything. So yeah, it is a big difference in the nurturing response, because she's gonna talk from a place that's more healing, that's more spiritual if we really went there.
Hey, Keith, what Genuine say though? It ain't none of your friends' business.
Okay, James, we just lost 15 views with Frankie.
No, that's important. No, that's important too. If we're talking about men, right? There are some things we shouldn't talk to our fellows about, right? Like I should reserve
men and female. Some stuff, and especially it depends on the friends. Yes. Like, hey, is that friend single? Do they have it?
Women will probably do that more than men. If we're being honest.
Yeah.
Because men can be messy too, but I mean that's more of a men don't just go telling their guy friend, their male friends like, oh man, let me tell you about my wife, blah 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 blah. Like not in a negative light, but a woman, believe girl, let me tell you about So a totally different.
So I think, Keith, that question was a great question, but what that should show us, we got to get back to the basics. Sometimes we're doing all this fighting and we forget to see the good in the person that we have, right? Because if I'm a guy and I feel like opening up to this woman, well, evidently she makes me feel that space, right? I don't go around just, holding out. Same with a woman, vice versa.
You don't just go around, nope.
Right. So again, we're about to land this plane, but clearly we can see some of this stuff is not about male or being a female. It's a human thing, right? And so that's why I love the conversations that are coming in. Let's see what Juanita says.
That gender bias.
Right. One conversation time. Juanita says, Zero, why I pressed upon the men in my life. That's why I impressed on the men in my life, my son, my brother, my cousin, friends, to be courageous enough to go to therapy, heal, and grow before even attempting to move on to the next relationship. If I kick the door down, all of y'all walk through it. Remember, we said this is not, we're talking about men and women in relationships, but to Juanita's point, this is male and female in any relationship. Whether do you talk about that with your son? Do you talk about it with your brother? Do you talk about it with your daughter or your cousin? If we normalize it all like that, like Frankie alluded to some earlier, those generational curses and those things that come up in our first community will help us be prepared for that second community. But a lot of this, to Juanita's point, we've excused or we come up in that first community and it becomes a learned behavior, Diana. Okay, when I get in my second community, we didn't talk at the house.
Yeah.
We fake it to make it, right? Hey, I seen mama get hit up across the head when it's time to order and mama shut down. So guess what? We don't like talking like that because we think it's condoning. No, but we got to understand it. If not, how will we ever break this generational curse? So I'm glad for you and your family, Juanita, that they have you to where you normalize this conversation, not just from a relational standpoint with men and women, but hey, wherever men and women actually go up. So I appreciate that. Want to make sure. Yes, they do. He said yes. A lot of factors when it comes to disclosing info. Y'all right. I think at the end of the day, what we see, y'all, it's easy to just enjoy parts of people instead of doing the work. The work that it takes 24/7. We can go on and on with this and keep your comments coming. But I think one thing, if we can't see anything, we can all, I want to be conflict resolution. That sounds good. That sounds right. How much work have you done? I damn sure can't land a plane. I never learned how to fly it, right?
That's true.
I don't care how much I focus on landing in it. Man, I never learned how to fly it. It don't matter about me worrying about how the actual landed. And so, yeah, just like last week, we talked about listening. Are we active listening to each other? Well, ultimately, once I listen, how do we land this plane and work together? And so that's what I want to kind of turn our attention to right now, bridging the divide. Juwan Arnold said, I hope you guys doing. We are, sir. Thank you for actually joining us on Facebook.
Shout out to Elroy. Thanks for joining us.
Elroy, appreciate it, man. Yeah, I saw you earlier, Elroy. My bad.
Yeah.
So again, we aired out our grievances, how it looks and how it affects us based on the gender role. Now here's what I want to be intentional. In my audience, help me with this. I want you guys to chime in. How do we now expect our significant other to practice conflict resolution? What is it that we need based on some of these stereotypes, these things we see? If I was asking my mate, if I was asking a woman, say, okay, what do you need from me? Like, what is the solution to help us get to that point? What would you say some of those things if you were, in other words, Diana, if you were speaking to men, this is what women need. Let's just say we're the spokesperson for each other's gender, right? This is typically what women need and how they interpret to allow us to get to that point of conflict resolution. And then men will do the same thing. I know, Diana, you want us to put down our video game. So, okay. The control is down. Next. No, I'm just kidding.
That is not what I want you to do.
Now, the game
Full
is
disclosure, I play too. Anyway.
Let me find out.
Yeah, I'll give you my screen name and all that when we get offline. I don't need nobody just randomly sending me a friend.
What's up?
I don't really know you like that. Hey, keep it in comments like they
that's the offline.
Right. But what are some expectations?
But yeah, so I mean, I think and it's so crazy, but the hardest thing for anybody to do is communicate. I really don't even understand why that is so. It's a lot. So most importantly, communication is key, but also again, self-work also is key. You know, I know a lot of people are always like, let's go to couples therapy. That sounds great for the couple aspect of it, but for the individual aspect, I think that there needs to be some individual work done on both parties as well to kind of help with that communication too. Because when you go to therapy, they talk about that. They give you, I don't know, a bajillion papers on how to communicate with your partner. Instead of using you instead of saying you, it's I feel, or the I factor is more so utilized. So it's not like you're pinpointing or you're blaming, your partner for whatever the disturbance may be. So I also think that individual therapy is a must, right? So that when we come together as a couple in couples therapy, it will make our transition a little bit more smoother. And then, so Juanita's point too, behavior modification, it's supposed to be a resolution, but guess what? If it was just that easy to do, then everybody would have already changed and altered themselves to be a great person. You get what I'm saying? Change is hard, right? So as much as we want, our partners to change, if our partner does not see that in themselves, then they're not going to change. They're going to keep, backpedaling because they don't see an issue with what it is they are doing. And in their hearts of hearts, they can't be the problem. There's no way, that they're the issue. It's only when they start to self-reflect, right? Going through that individual therapy,
Yeah.
You kind of self-reflect on, what it is, where you may have went wrong at. And then that's when you'll start to modify your behavior, to rectify the conflict that's, caused your relationship to derail.
Right.
I also think that, vulnerability is another thing, that it's kind of hard, to get from most men. And I know a lot of that has to do with, past partnerships and things of that sort. That's why it's important for the self-work to be done, so that when that becomes a factor, they know off the bat, that vulnerability, this is a safe space, the vulnerability is okay to come forth and shine, also. And then just knowing your partner, you get what I'm saying? Again, we talk about, communication and vulnerability, and, how we want to, talk about all these things, but knowing your partner through and through kind of helps with that too, because when you know your partner, you'll be able to see and understand certain things that may trigger them, or certain modifications that they, may have made, or some backpedaling that may be done, because you've also studied, right, your partner to kind of better understand, where you can help them in trying to modify said behavior, because it's not a I factor, it's a we factor. It's a partnership. So in order to, bring that all through and through, you want to also be supportive, to the other partner, to kind of help them move forward with, correcting, their behavior. So
right. The reality of it is,
that was
and
a
thank
lot.
you so much. No. Thank you
No.
so much. Again, this is one of these conversations where we can probably do a part two. The reality of it is, you cannot solve a problem with someone else if you haven't solved problems with yourself. It's impossible.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times we put an unfair expectation of one to solve a problem with another person to keep from losing them, because we recognize they're a good person. But like Dana was alluding to, have we really done the homework ourselves? Juanita says behavior modification is not easy, but it's imperative. There's no resolution of behavior. It's not identified and acknowledged. Again, we talk about what? Emotional intelligence. Guys, we got to normalize this stuff.
Yes.
We can't go get the counselor once we had a problem. Go get a counselor. That's what I think we need to normalize in 2025. Yeah, we do have some of the same problems, but fortunately, some of us have more opportunity to this stuff, right? We have EAP program. We have insurance that we can have. Do we make it important more than that dollar and cent we making an hour? So I think, and I won't get on that soapbox, but that's something we as a culture, we have to change our narrative. Even when we get physically sick, we'll wait until we feeling the thing and we can't do nothing. We can't take nothing. By the time you get to the doctor, I can't do nothing for you. It's the same thing with our mind. We done developed that habit, built that habit, defended that habit, and we're gonna build our own world. And so now when we go into in the real world, but if they ain't living by the rules, regulations in my head, they wrong. Oh, there's something wrong with them. So I think we really need to normalize, because even when you say go get help, I think some people subconsciously, well, there's something wrong with your ears, as long as you're in perfect ears, right?
Yeah.
So great point. Keith said, from dealing in the past with someone who would shut down when I had overwhelming rants, I appreciate when I actually got interrupted and and reassure that my feelings and thoughts will be acknowledged. So in return, my tone eases up. I'm more clear just by having that sense of safe space in another person. And I like that forward staking comment, Keith, because this is why I say again, oh, don't raise your voice. Well, sometimes, if done correctly, and you're running off the emotion to where, watch this, you are self-sabotaging,
Right.
you are self-medicating, then an inflection to get your attention. And I think that's so much for you to recognize in that setting, again, not that broad stroke. Oh, if you raise your voice, then, well, let's put it in context, right? And then like when you walking across the street and don't see a car, baby, watch out. Why you yelling at me? You finna be dead.
Right.
You focus on. So sometimes that in good be a protection. And I love what you said. You internalize it, not as something negative, but you recognize something about yourself. You this person wasn't trying to come at me and go wrong. You know what? I appreciate that, right? So that's why I say it's not nuances. You know, a lot of times when we listen to people's emotions, we're listening to defend us and then not indict them. No,
right.
Men and women be assertive, just like with a woman. There are times where a woman have to go all the way to, baby, it'll be all right. You ain't told me nothing, but oh wow, wait a minute. Kind of like Frankie alluded to. Okay, that a man can't give me that. Frankie can convince me it's gonna be okay all day. Frankie, okay, I'm gonna leave you, and I'm still worried. Baby girl comes in, hey, it's just different. Right? So that's understanding the differences.
It's the mindfulness of it. Yeah, it's the mindfulness.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Those are things that you have to practice since we're in the conflict resolution. Remember, it's conflict. So you have someone has to stay calm through the heat of the all, you know. So not necessarily raising my voice when I interrupt you. I'm be like, wait, calm down, take a minute, let's start over from here, or you talking about this, that, and the other, and get the conversation back calm. Another thing that will help too is dialogue, you know, creating the conversation, you know, like just it kind of like go back to the last time y'all talked about this. Try to remember some of that stuff and create the dialogue from there. Both parties have to set some type of boundary. If you know the last time it was heated or the time before that it was heated, we have to figure out where our boundaries are set to where we could either put a pin in it or agree to disagree, or we can come up with an agreement or a conclusion to it. And one good statement too, man, you know, think of it like this. It's something. It's not you. So all these things always boil down to somebody taking it personal. Not personal. It's just something. You know what I'm saying? It's not personal. Just remember that.
Yeah. You have some nuggets in there. I mean, could you imagine going to a doctor? You need the help. Doctor bring you good news and you blame the doctor. That don't make sense. Just because you don't like what you're hearing, you went to this person because they can find out what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't like hearing about what's wrong with you, and now all of a sudden this doctor's wrong, I'm going to sue you for malpractice, it's you. And a lot of time we miss these moments, Frankie, to your point, because we're too busy talking to defend instead of talking to understand. Because the moment I see you don't agree with me and then play the way it did in my head, you didn't use the words in my head and on my, guess what? I have a problem with that. And now the issue is put to the side. And now when I'm trying to convince you, in all honesty, be a mini-me. And when I don't get that action response, usually in a relationship, all those things do happen. Right? I make transitions or whatnot. And that's why I love what Keith said, because sometimes, and look, let's be fair, y'all. We're not perfect. Sometimes them emotions can get us out.
No, we're not.
Right? But do I have the responsibility, just like I said, that crossing the street? Babe, I'm finna yell at you right now because this is life and death situation. You know, in other words, this is something I need you to know, right? So if you're going on out there, there may be an opportunity where, hey, and I love the fact that Keisha, whoever that was, she knew this person enough Wait a minute, that wasn't cutting me off. That wasn't that. This ain't that. Oh, okay. And because she internalized what that person meant correctly, it helped her. It drew her closer to that person from her actual words, right? Juanita says vulnerability is beautiful space with the right partner. As she stated earlier, if
she's right.
enter space with them, there is room for growth in a relationship, or there may be a need to move on for the relationship. I always say, look, I'll bring in my peace, but I will not go in your storm. If I come in your storm, that's to bring you out to peace. For me to stay in there. And sometimes people don't see, or do we like to talk about when we're in our storm? You know, we want everything to come in to this storm. Well, I'm over here. I haven't been through that, and it's a little safe and dry over here on this dry land. So we gotta come on with it. Let's look at things what we as active listening. I think we've been touching on these things, right? Sometimes we hear because these things work, but are we actively listening, or are we waiting to formulate our opinion? Are we actively listening, or are we waiting to share what's already in our head? I always say, how many conversations have you been into where you can tell the person's not listening to you, they're really checking, they're fact checking what they already think. Think about it. You're answering the questions, but they're really fact checking you because your question, your honest answer don't add up to what they're already thinking. Well, like Diana said earlier, you're not effectively communicating.
Yeah.
You're just talking to each other, and that's going to be just a ticking time bomb. What about empathy? Third pillar of emotion. I think one of you all alluded to. Let's talk about that. Boy, we're perfect lawyers to ourselves, but our mate will be the judge and the jury. What does empathy really look like? Because I think sometimes we just think that means being polite. And then, like I said, anybody can jump in. But real empathy that makes relationships work, what does that like? It don't have to be all big, but just in layman's terms, like that empathy, what should that look like in relationships?
Trying to find out. You go, Lo.
No, well, again, in my opinion, to make it simple and quick, is looking at your partner and trying to understand the way your partner's feeling, the way your partner's thinking through their eyes, not seeing yourself at them, but seeing yourself through their eyes, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, understanding, trying to understand what they're processing in that moment, whether it be a conflict resolution, whether it be an issue or problem. How is it affecting them? How does it pertain to what they're doing? And fully understanding that, or trying to get a grasp that will also put you in a place where you be more accepting to your partner, and you will be able to give, you'll be able to give more leniency. You'll be able to give those outlets. You'll be able to open up the doors to open the communication up, because maybe you're looking at your partner realizing that they have a issue with communicating and talking. Well, if you understand that by saying through their eyes, then you could open that door to give them that opportunity. So having empathy is one of the best things, because it allows you to not only develop a better sense of what your partner is trying to say, but help you understand what you need to be for your partner.
Frankie, you had something?
Pretty much the same thing. Understanding.
Yeah, he pretty much said it.
Yeah. When it involves empathy, I think the biggest misconception we make is that we believe understanding the person means we have to agree with them.
Ooh.
So we quickly respond to the disagreement.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding them.
Yeah.
Right? Empathy means you intentionally reserve a place. You completely suspend yourself. A doctor see all type of horrific stuff, have to give all horrific news, but if he had a bad day at home, he can't come in there and, hey, she died. No, he has to create a space to help people and their loved ones understand what's going on. And it's the same thing with the relationship. We have to intentionally have that space reserved. And like Carlos said, listen to understand the person, even if we disagree. Because if we hear the disagreement first, that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to react to that person on, right? I don't care how long you've been together. That's a whole different person. They have the right to their emotions also, right?
Right.
So if we listen to understand all this stuff that Diana was talking about earlier, well, guess what? You have to learn how to listen to yourself first. If you've been running some things and whatnot, how you gonna understand another person, right? So that empathy is very important. And then I love what Frankie said earlier. Finding a common ground. When it's always said and done when we're talking about conflict resolution, have we forgotten what the common ground is? Like Frankie said, sometimes go back and reset. Wait a minute, this ain't that. We ain't talking about that no more. Wait a minute, have we introduced different brand new topics in it? Wait a minute, let's go back. What was the initial conversation that we sat down for, right? When it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that will kind of be a guide to where, even like Frankie said earlier, maybe you have to table some things. Maybe that one setting won't resolve everything, right? Hey, maybe there need to be a part 2 or part 3. But if we don't forgot what we even talking about, then it's like it's all said and done. Look, man, I want to thank everybody, man, for hanging in here with us, man. We're still talking about the silent treatment, tackling conflict resolution across genders. One last component, man, I want to kind of give you all food for thought on is the role of emotional expression. And I think we kind of already talked about it, man. It's pretty much understanding how our mate responds with their emotions. Like everything can't be weaponized, right? Like Dana said, have I taken the time to learn my mate? Even if it's wrong, like they're imperfect, right? They're entitled to make mistakes with their emotions. That does not indict them, you know. If my mate is trying to talk to me about something and they're not listening, that don't mean I should not listen to them, right? That just means, hey, I probably have to be a little bit more patient. I have to do this and that and whatnot. And so definitely understanding how our mates express their emotions could make or break the conversation. And then even learning ourselves, right? Learning ourselves and hearing ourselves and understanding what makes me tick and what makes me feel this way, so on and so forth. That helps our mate understand and learn about what they did. So when it's all said and done, man, we have to do that self-work within ourselves. So look, overall, man, as we bring this to close, as you can see, man, sometimes we can have those real genuine traits that we look for in our mate, but when it's all said and done, we can misinterpret them, right? By not understanding our emotions. And so hopefully some of the bridging the divide points we given us can make us, when we finally listening to each other, and now we finally sit down to resolve the conflict, hopefully those new points that come up, we can go get some help on it. But more importantly, we can actually resolve the conflict that's actually at hand and on the table. I want to thank everybody, man, as I always continue to say, thank you for everyone's responses. Keep those responses going. Again, go out there and follow us on Spotify, on Amazon Music, on iHeartRadio, on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere where there's social media. Keep the conversation going and let's have these conversations. Like Juanita said, just normalize it between men and women, period. It don't have to be from a relational standpoint. And so hopefully we can start changing some of this one space at a time. As always, I'm proud with my team. I want to let everybody know. I know I had a problem with it last time. A lot of what we talk about today, believe it or not, is in my latest book, Think Better to Be Better, A Guide to Mental Wellness. And so we're hoping to do some things with that on the podcast. So be looking out for that. As always, man, the team that has been assimilated here, man, has definitely helped me with that project. And so some of this stuff kind of pulls from that. And so I'm definitely grateful for it. Look, when it's all said and done, man, remember to talk to each other, not at each other. This has been another great episode, I may say, of Unfiltered Kings podcast. Follow us on social media. Follow us on where all of your social media and podcast things are at. And if there's nothing else, man, we'll see y'all on the next one.
Good night, everybody.
Peace.